problem of poverty is definitely getting more complex.
The pandemic has only exacerbated those problems.
It's relentless, all of the different triggers that can push people deeper into poverty instead of lifting them out.
It is getting more difficult for our communities to have economic stability.
One of the things that I think the Poverty to Possibilities Summit does for our community is to help change the narrative. We all need to lean in together to help people. And the Poverty to Possibilities Summit sets out a vision that this is possible.
What this summit brings together is the community, because we have to hear from the community's voice. If we're going to make any changes, we have to have the community voice at the table.
This is a great opportunity for the public, private, and nonprofit sector to come together and learn about what's affecting our community members and come together to try to solve the problem.
Not everybody that attends the summit is solely focused on poverty and the work of United Way. We all can see the problem. We don't know what the solution is. We understand where we need to go. We know we want to get there soon.
The Poverty to Possibilities Summit is giving us an opportunity to align our efforts. So if we're adding synergy to each other's focus and figuring out how do we build on what others are doing, then we're going to go a lot farther.
When we work together, we basically provide opportunities for everyone. The benefits the whole community. It doesn't benefit the individual, it benefits the community as a whole. There's going to be more people contributing to the economy. There's going to be more people that's able to buy homes. They can go to school.
Those skilled workers could go out and spend money in the local community to support small businesses.
When we lift a family out of poverty, everybody's benefiting. Not just the family, but businesses in the community, social services in the community, the welfare of the community. It's just better for everyone.
Equity's kind of at the root of a lot of the barriers that are in the way for people's progress, and we need to not shy away from that. It needs to be addressed front on.
When we think about the Alice families, from the business community, from where I sit, I think it's really important to make sure that we understand how equity really is important to our entire community.
In order to make changes, we have to really focus on policies and systems and environmental changes. And if we're going to have an equitable community, we're going to have to make sure that we get together.
And the only way we can do this work is as the community comes together to find solutions to help everyone in our community thrive.
It's time to think differently. The solutions are all around us. If we're willing to work with our neighbor, empower that person, trust them, and work together, then we're going to build our communities back up to where we all want them to be.
The significance of United Way's role in lifting 15,000 families out of poverty is huge. And we need to make sure that we are there for United Way, but more importantly for the 15,000 families that will come out of poverty.
This issue of poverty has only increased during this pandemic. United Way hasn't backed down from that. They've gathered the community to come back and get stronger to support these families that are facing this issue.
They're tackling it in a lot of different ways, and I think that's one of the unique assets that we have in the community, is what United Way delivers.
Collaboration would be the one word I would use for United Way's role in lifting families out of poverty. Collaboration is about bringing people together. Collaboration is about bringing this community together and leading us towards a common goal of bringing the 15,000 families out of poverty. And we are committed to making sure this happens.
They convene the right folks at the table, not just our politicians, not just our nonprofit and for-profit, our business, not just government, but they also know the importance of the community's voice.
United Way of Pierce County gives me a lot of hope that this work can be done in a very meaningful way, and we're all going to be better off because of it.
Welcome to our 5th Community Poverty Summit, From Poverty to Possibilities. First off, I'd like to join me as we honor and acknowledge that the land many of us are streaming in from today has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst many indigenous peoples, specifically the Puyallup tribe of Indians. We pay our respects to elders both past and present. United Way honors and respects the diverse indigenous peoples connected to this territory on which so many of us gather. We're so grateful to kick off our 5th annual Poverty Summit today, and we're thrilled that you're all here. From Poverty to Possibilities is Pierce County's signature community summit that takes on barriers to economic equity. This year's summit will focus on racial equity and how we can prosper together. Together, we'll broaden our knowledge and ownership about systematic barriers to moving out of poverty by focusing on building bridges to move forward and dismantle systems and structures that are holding us back. This event is made possible because we have committed partners in our community who believe in our work and lend their support through event sponsorships. I will name all of our sponsors, but please hold your finger snapping and hand waving to the end. WSECU, Greater Tacoma Community Foundation, State Farm, Virginia Mason, Tacoma Public Utilities, Harborstone Credit Union, Workforce Central, OB Credit Union, Tacoma Pierce County Chamber of Commerce, and Tacoma Community College Foundation. Thank you for all of your support. I'd also like to recognize our board of directors, several of whom are here today, and of course the staff at United Way who've been working tirelessly to pull all of this together. I'd also like to thank our elected officials who are able to join us today. And now we're going to play a short video sent to you from our friend and representative, Derek Kilmer.
Hey folks, Derek Kilmer here, representative for Washington's 6th District. So today's event is about supporting the hard work of the United Way and its partners who are working every day to reduce poverty and increase possibility. And I want to start with just a simple message. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the United Way. Thank you to our fearless leader, Donna Pondepindo, for leading this charge every day. Thank you to all of you for your critical role in keeping families and individuals healthy and supported. Thank you for your efforts to lift people out of poverty and out of hunger, and for addressing the disproportionate impact on BIPOC communities. United Way is doing a phenomenal job strengthening our social safety net, confronting systemic racism, and recognizing its role in persistent socioeconomic disparities, all while helping over 150,000 individuals access resources and basic needs just last year. That's impressive. That's making a difference that we should all be grateful for. But second, I want to thank everyone there today for your efforts. We know that the goal of lifting 15,000 people out of poverty by 2028 is a big lift that'll take many hands. But this investment of time and resources and brain power is more important than ever. These aren't just investments in protecting people, they are investments in the future. Because of these efforts, more kids can expect a meal at home and to go to school ready to learn. Because of these efforts, more people can have a roof over their heads and can have more stability in their lives. Because of these efforts, more families will have an opportunity to enter the door to economic opportunity. Together, united, we can foster stronger families and a stronger community. And I want to thank you for your commitment to working together to be advocates for change. And listen, in Congress, I'm eager to be your partner in these efforts. That's why we're working to provide more federal support to persistently distressed communities so people can have economic opportunity regardless of what zip code they live in. It's why we're working to increase affordable housing investments. It's why we're pushing for a historic investment in public transit and internet access so people can be attached to opportunity. It's why we're working to ensure families can secure accessible and affordable childcare and healthcare. Let me just end with this. The only thing I remember from my college anthropology class was something that they asked Margaret Mead. They asked her, when you're doing research, when you're doing a dig, studying an ancient culture, how do you know you've come across a civilized society rather than just random wanderers? What made them civilized? Was it a tool or an instrument or an article of clothing? And she said, you know you've come across a civilized society when you find a healed femur bone, a healed thigh bone. Because as she explained it, in ancient times, if you broke your femur, you were pretty well cooked. You couldn't hunt or gather or flee from danger. And most importantly, you couldn't fix it on your own. You had to have someone care enough about you to help you heal. My friends, we have a lot of broken femurs in our world right now. And it's folks like all of you who've shown the humanity and the civility to keep working to heal them and to keep our families and friends and neighbors going. And I'm just so grateful for what you do. And I'm very excited about the progress we will continue to make by being united. So please, let's keep at it. And please know how grateful I am to be your partner. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for your support, Representative Gilmer. Now I'd like to welcome to our virtual speakers box my friend and our Pierce County Executive, Bruce Stanmeyer.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Steve. It is great to be with you this morning. I only wish we were with you in person. I can remember just all of the prior Poverty to Possibilities breakfasts and just how energizing they are for all of us to come away from that feeling the sense that we are in this together, that we are working. We don't have to do it all on our own, but there are people alongside us to help our community meet this goal of taking 15,000 people from poverty to a much brighter future. And you know, it's in their name, but United Way has been bringing us together for 100 years in Pierce County, and that is amazingly impressive and exciting on its own. So what we're doing here this morning has been being done by the leaders and the community of Pierce County for a long time. We are stewards of this opportunity. So I am excited to be with you this morning and to go through this program. The second thing that I am excited about is this really strong focus on lifting folks from poverty to a brighter future, focusing on asset limited, income constrained, employed people in Pierce County. Now, that's not all that United Way does, of course, but they are unique in helping us come together and focus on this, where it's a group of our neighbors that is big enough that it can be significant, but small enough that we can get our arms around it, we can envision and we can see what it can do. I can tell you the work of United Way has already spawned a lot of work. It is something that I see every single day. When I look out across Pierce County, two things are really key. One is that we need to increase the earnings of many people in Pierce County. We need more and better jobs. That's key for our broader community. That's absolutely essential for the Alice community that we're talking about. And secondly, we need more and more types of housing, that our housing costs have been increasing and continue to increase at a crazy rate, something that is not healthy for our community and keeps those folks who are on the edge from being able to get stability and move forward. I'm really excited that we brought together communities from throughout Pierce County together in the South Sound Housing Affordability Partners to begin working strongly on housing affordability. It's a great partnership. It represents the United Way of how we're going to move forward on housing affordability. And I would like to highlight something that a couple of the speakers in the opening video mentioned. These issues, the challenges facing our Alice community, the challenges facing many of us in Pierce County have all gotten worse through the pandemic. Those with assets had the ability to weather the pandemic much more strongly than those with limited assets. So once again, those on the edge were faced with a burden, with challenges that are unlike most of us have experienced. And it means we've got to focus and double down on this effort. The other thing, and I think a point you're going to talk about today, and that I'm excited about, and I think that Heather, our guest speaker, is going to talk about, is that this is work that we want to do to help support and provide opportunity for our Alice community, but it doesn't just benefit them. It benefits all of us. As Representative Kilmer just talked about, how we behave as a community, how we support each other as a community is absolutely essential. And by benefiting this segment of our community, if we can, when we lift up 15,000 folks, that benefits all of us because it benefits our community. It defines who we are. And I would just like to close by thanking Donna Ponapinto and her team. I know putting this together is a huge challenge. And I know particularly when you've got the weather that we had last night that has caused, hopefully, not too many people to lose power in our community and have a rough start of that. But I want to thank her and her team for bringing us together, for focusing us on this effort. Donna, you and your team are doing our broader community a great service. So thank you very much for that. And with that said, I'm looking forward to the rest of the program. Thank you very much for joining this morning.
When Donna asked me if I'd come back for today's summit, I was thrilled because every single year that I've been a part of the Poverty to Possibility Summit, I've seen us make significant progress toward identifying some of the biggest barriers to economic success. And as you might recall, I believe that no problem can withstand sustained thinking. And we have a solid lineup of panel members today, as you will see on the slide coming up. We've gathered together some of the area's most powerful experts, as well as leaders and activists. The people at United Way are champions for social and economic justice. Economic justice, for those of you who haven't looked it up in the dictionary lately, is a set of moral principles for building economic institutions. The ultimate goal is to create an opportunity for each person to create a sufficient material foundation upon which to have a dignified, productive, and creative life. And so now let's get to our panel discussion. We're so fortunate to have such an esteemed group of panel members with us today, and we put all of their bios in the chat. I think the chat will be saved, or you might be able to save your own chat so that you can have those bios, but they are there and available for you. With us today, our State Senator Tawana Nobles, who is also the CEO of the Tacoma Urban League, Dr. Ali Medeiros, who's Dean of the School of Urban Studies and Assistant Chancellor for Community Partnership at the University of Washington, Tacoma, Carlos Ortiz, who is a writer, director, producer, filmmaker for Zedemiah Entertainment, and co-founder and chairman of Luna. He's also chair of Latino Chamber of Commerce, and we're happy to have him with us today. AJ Gordon is with us as well, Vice President and Senior Relationship Manager for Banner Bank. He is board chairman of the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber of Commerce. And finally, my friend, Dr. Karen Johnson, who is the Chief Equity Officer for the state of Washington. Welcome to all of you, my esteemed guests. I want to start out with some thoughts about Heather McGhee. She gave us a lot to think about. And so our questions today will be focused on her keynote presentation and on her interview. Dr. Johnson, let's begin with you. Given your role as Chief Equity Officer for the state of Washington, what's the one takeaway that you have from Heather's remarks?
Carol, thank you for the lead-off question. It's so good to see you again. And at first, I must thank the United Way of Pierce County for even convening this summit and inviting your Washington State Office of Equity, the first in the nation, to join in this collective wisdom today. And while many do think of me as the Chief Equity Officer, I'm just the director of the office, serving where we can. You know, I can already feel the solidarity in the Zoom room today, and just thank everyone for their presence. And I do bring greetings on behalf of the governor today, and a shout out to Dr. Lori Finks and members of our governor's poverty reduction work group for leading the state's plan to dismantle poverty in Washington, a blueprint for the nation. Carol, as you can probably hear in my voice, I'm already moved, I'm already full, I'm already choked up. And you know, there's so many takeaways from Heather McGhee's profound brilliance. It was hard just to think about one. Yet top of mind for me is the Solidarity Dividend, because it reminds me of the term synergy, which simply stated means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, which is what the Solidarity Dividend is all about. And on her book, in her book on page 289, she wrote, quote, "We must emerge from this crisis in our republic with a new birth of freedom, rooted in the knowledge that we are so much more when the we in the we the people is not some, S-O-M-E of us, but all of us, that we are greater than and greater for the sum, S-U-M of us. So my takeaway is this: if racism rooted in othering, fear, and a lack mindset costs everyone, imagine the prosperity, the health, and well-being for everyone that solidarity brings when rooted in belonging, love for humanity, or Ubuntu, and an abundance mindset. So my takeaway is to thank Heather McGee for reminding us all that together, there really is more than enough.
Thank you, Dr. J. Yeah, you can put up your clapping and your hearts of love and all that goodness if you enjoyed those words of wisdom. I want to build on the ideas of Heather McGee and Dr. Johnson by going next to Senator Nobles. My partner, my world traveling partner, we hung out in Ghana together, had some good times, wondering if she ever did get her luggage, but maybe not. So Tawana, given some of Heather's comments and the work of the Tacoma Urban League, and even if you see a nexus between the work you're doing as a state senator, what do you think we need to think about as a community when it comes to the very specific issue of supporting Black business? Are there challenges or bright spots that you want to highlight today?
Thank you. I had to wait for the host to unmute me. But hello, everyone. I'm Tawana Nobles. I'm the president and CEO of the Tacoma Urban League and the state senator for the 28th Legislative District. And I'm going to drop in a chat. The perfect place to start is we're talking about supporting Black businesses. And I agree with Dr. J. Heather dropped some really important nuggets, but I think that the greatest one for me is that we are all in this together. And if we are going to truly support Black businesses, it is not one industry, one segment of our community. We really must do it together. It is a collective effort. And I took some notes down and some really important things that I want to make sure that we talk about today and that I get to share. But number one on that list is we all have to participate in creating a stronger Black-owned ecosystem. We all have to make sure that we are participating in allowing the Black community and Black entrepreneurs to see themselves as owners and not as workers for institutions and entities that were not created for them, for us. And I'm seeing a lot of these efforts in our community. We do it at Tacoma Urban League with our Black Empowerment Center, where we are focused on building wealth in the Black community. And it's a full spectrum. For some folks, building wealth is they need to start with improving their credit or putting together a basic household budget. For others, they're ready for home ownership, but we are there to serve. I'm also seeing support for Black businesses. Well, let me back up. We also created during the pandemic because more businesses were launching or growing in the Black community. And so we created a position, our small business support navigator, to provide around the clock services to businesses. And by around the clock, I mean during business hours, because we don't do hustle culture at the Urban League. So during business hours, we are available to support Black-owned businesses. But we also see it with accelerators and incubators for Black businesses here in Pierce County. We need more of those resources. If there was one thing that I learned during our time when we were visited by Monique and the Undercover Billionaire experience, is she talked about there is not one single place where a business can go and work on their business idea and their business plan and then launch and grow their business and find success. There are a hodgepodge of resources across Pierce County, but we're lacking the one-stop shop and one that's focused on Black-owned businesses or other Black, Indigenous, or businesses owned by people of color. So we need more of those resources, and it will literally take all of us. And then some of the challenges that we see, and I think Heather, again, hit it right on the head, the big lie. We all have been told this narrative of what we must do in this country, how successful or what limited success might look like for the Black community. And it truly is a lie. There also is a real gap to access in capital. And as Heather phrased it, folks are simply guarding every penny. And the Black community is having a very hard time gaining access to capital to launch and grow their businesses. And then we have to be honest about the institutional and systemic racism that exists all throughout this country and many of the financial institutions right here in Pierce County, because I know it sounds big and this must be happening across this nation. It's happening right here in Tacoma. It's happening right here in Pierce County. We have a lot of work to do. And then we also need folks outside of the Black community to deliver on those pledges. A lot of people committed to supporting Black businesses during the pandemic. A lot of people were quick to recite Black Lives Matter and buy Black. And a lot of folks have not delivered on that promise. A lot of financial institutions, from non-traditional financial institutions to corporations to our banks and credit unions, have not delivered on those promises to create products and resources for Black-owned businesses. So we are still waiting for those opportunities. But the bright spots are, we're knocking on the doors, asking for those resources. We're knocking on the doors, collecting on those promises, demanding that the Black community is served and that everyone that committed, especially during 2020, is stepping up to help us to ensure that our Black-owned businesses are successful. I think another bright spot is mindsets are shifting in the Black community, and mindsets are shifting outside of the Black community. A lot more folks are stepping into, a lot of folks are leaning into that change that they committed to. Again, we're still collecting on it, but a lot of folks are committed to creating change. And instead of just allowing Black folks to work in their kitchen or in facilities or somewhere behind the scenes, are really taking that step to invest in their #1 chef, who they know damn well should be owning their own restaurant, and helping that entrepreneur to be an owner of a restaurant. So a lot of people are helping to make that change and shifting mindsets. At Tacoma Urban League, we are seeing a lot of innovation. A lot of our Black-owned businesses really took advantage of e-commerce and pivoting their business model to be successful during this pandemic, which will allow them to be successful moving forward. So many business models shifted, and that to me is what happens in the Black community when we are allowed to make our own decisions, when it's by us, for us. We truly know what direction we need to take, and those pivots simply have happened for sure over the last couple of years. And policy is also changing. Who's creating the policy is changing. And so the rules of engagement will continue to change. So continue to step up, elect the leaders that you know are going to be supportive of Black-owned businesses, Black entrepreneurship. Make sure they are the key decision makers so we can continue to see success. And then again, I'll just end with all of this is for what Heather said. We're planting seeds for capital so that our economy can be just for all. That is the goal. It can be, it will be, but we need to all play our part. It's a collective effort, and we all can ensure that our Black businesses are successful, that they are able to launch, that they are able to grow. And I put the link in the chat to give you a starting place. There are 92 Black-owned businesses on our Tacoma Urban League Black Business Directory. So you can move beyond status quo as well and support those businesses. There are a variety of services and needs that could be met on that directory. But I just thank Heather for her comments and her keynote and her strong points. And I thank you all for giving me an opportunity to speak about the work that we're doing in the community and at Tacoma Urban League.
Yes, I think what Senator Nobles just said is, show me the money. Don't just hire your equity officer. Don't just stand up your DEI department and then not show the money.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's time out for performance. We're ready for transformation. And one way you do that is through economic justice. I do know, AJ Gordon, that the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber has been engaged in a transformational journey of its own. I've been listening in on your private conversations. Not really. You've been very transparent and open about the work that you're doing around racial justice and economic justice. So talk a little bit about that DEI journey and the work of the BIPOC Business Accelerator Project. Want to just tighten up our time just a little bit so that I can hear all of your beautiful voices, okay? AJ?
Okay, sounds good, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, as behalf of the board of directors for the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber, I'm the current chair, and our footprint is vast. I mean, we serve an entire county as a chamber. That's over 1,300 members. And those members are diverse. They have different industry representations. They have different demographic, location representations. And so as a board and as a chamber, we were already looking through the diversity lens for the past several years. And so with the hyper focus around the equity piece, much like Heather shared, and I think more people need to talk about this, as in order for someone to have more, that doesn't mean someone else has less. And with equity, it can be a constant replenishing of more and more equity. I love the adage that as the tides rise, so do all the ships. And so what we are doing as a board and as a chamber is investing in our community so that everyone in the community is more successful, which then allows for us all, including businesses, because businesses are very tied to the success of the community, to also be more successful. Well, one thing that I'm very proud of is before we just started saying things and putting together programs, we did an internal look on how the chamber staff and the board was operating. And so we put together anti-racist task force and really beefed up the leadership around making sure that the words we were saying, the marketing materials we were producing, that it had equity and inclusion around all of that. Changed our hiring practices, changed our job description. Everything we could do internally, that's where we started to really get that pulse. And then, as you mentioned, then we went external and we put together programs. Even before that, we changed our mission statement to be making the South Sound the most equitable and inclusive place to do business in Washington State. We wanted that to be our banner that would live above all of these other activities and actions that we were facilitating. We brought in the Racial Equity Institute for a board training and a staff training. We publicly, through open letters, made stances concerning racial injustice. We launched the Tacoma Black Business Accelerator through SpaceWorks. We also assisted with the Tacoma Kiva loan program through SpaceWorks. And then just most recently, we had DEI as one of the 3 focus points of the South Sound Summit that was just held this month. And as you mentioned, Carol, one of the most exciting things that just got started at the end of September is the BIPOC Business Accelerator. And that was something that the county was able to leverage some government funding. And so through the county and through the chamber and through various partners and vendors, we're going to be giving grants to new businesses and existing businesses that are looking to grow. We have educational resources. We have multiple different cohorts, so that way we can have people that are together and flourishing as that solidarity piece. We don't want anybody in our community or any of our members to feel like they're on this road alone. We're all in this together, and we're going to continue with that. We have great additions to our 2022 plan and beyond, and it's just exciting. And it's great to partner with Donna and her team at the United Way and everything that Pierce County is doing to make our community better. We're just happy to be along as a partner.
Thank you. I'm really happy for the internal work being done first, and I can imagine how intense, emotional, maybe even really difficult it was for all of you to come to grips with the truth of the role that the business community has had in maintaining the very injustice that we're now trying to address. I mean, there first has to be that reckoning with self, the acknowledgement of my own role personally, and how I've benefited from inequity. And then you
Yeah.
can start working your way out of it. So I appreciate that. Heather talked a lot about economic impacts and trends, and who better than Ali Medeiros to break it down for us in plain language, right? And add a local twist to it. So Ali,
Yes.
Heather talks about how racism costs everyone, and each year you have helped us see in real time the impact of the economic impact of how we behave here locally with respect to Alice families. So speak to the local view of the economic impact of race.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I always feel like I'm also a downer when I start talking, so I don't want to do that. I just want to see if I can figure out a way to say this in a way that allows us to move forward. There were a couple of things that were said by our speaker that I want to emphasize. I have mentioned this in a couple of different talks before, that racism is antithetical to market economy. Actually, in a perfect market economy, there would be no racism. People would be paid for their labor equitably and according to what they do, not necessarily in the way that we have done it historically. I also want to thank her for bringing up the idea of the role of immigrants and that of communities of color in neighborhood redevelopments. But I also want to say that some of those, unfortunately, do translate to other acts of gentrification and then pricing out the very people who help bring these communities back. They're pushed out. So I want to say those few things and just move us a little bit forward. I think you heard that pandemic had an impact. Now, I want to say a few things about what the pandemic for the year 2020 did for us, and perhaps that's a way for us to understand how things work out. Yes, it's true. We were on a downtrend globally and also locally and nationally with our poverty rates, but in 2020, for a period of time, 11.4% was added to our poverty. Somewhere about 3.3 million people, more people, fell into poverty in the United States. In our own region, if you look at the data on unemployment filing from the period of the beginning to the middle of the summer, you will notice that the majority of the people who lost their jobs were typically in service sector, and typically they were people of color, meaning that the first impact of the pandemic was on the very communities that we have been talking about this morning. Nationally, our median income fell by 2.9%. That's after adjustment for inflation. But the people who really were impacted in this process, I want to give us some stats to think about. And that is low-wage service workers and people of color were the most impacted one. For the black population in the United States, poverty reached 19.5% in that period of time. And women were more impacted than men. And what is interesting about this process is that also female-headed households were impacted the most, 23.4% in terms of poverty data. Now, for male single-headed household, that number itself was almost half of that. So even in terms of family composition, having a female-headed household or a male-headed household makes a difference. Now, imagine this data, and let's add one more thing to it before I talk about Pierce County. The population that was impacted the most in terms of education were the people without a high school education. Now, as we reflect on Pierce County, we do know that our education level is lower than it should be in terms of comparison. We know that our economy is highly dependent on the service sector and low-wage earners, which means that in 2020, we actually experienced something different, and that is the dividend of not being equitable, if I could put it that way, is the social results that we see and the economic results that we see. Now, recovery from that essentially means that we don't go back into this with the idea that the lowest wages is a form of employment. What we really need to think about is employment with payments that are equitable, which means I should not be looking at King County and Pierce County data and notice that for the same jobs we pay less here than they pay up there. As I have said many, many times in many different settings, people commute to make up for the money that you don't give them. And so in many ways, what's important here is that as we look at our data, and the 2021 data for Pierce County is still coming, we need to understand that, yes, we might feel like there is more recovery, but what we are not paying attention to is the following, that if the wages are not made equitable in this region, we will be vulnerable in every epidemic, in every economic episodes that we are facing. So here's my hopeful part of the message. I'm hoping that we all have seen the data and we have learned from this data, something that we need to invest in. And the people that we need to invest in are the people who work really hard. We need to understand that equity matters to everyone. And I want to say that this is not just for people with low wages, it's for everyone. And in that way, our speaker delivered the most brilliant message, and the book is all about that. It is the sum of us. It's not who gets ahead and who falls behind. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Ali. We appreciate that. And I know that you might have to leave us before this panel discussion is completely over. So I just want everybody to give Ali a shout out in case you see him disappear off your screen. He may get called away before we're done, but we aren't going to leave before we hear from Carlos Ortiz. Carlos, Heather talks about, gives sort of the BIPOC perspective as well as what one might call the white perspective. I'm wondering, how are you lifting up economic justice work, racial equity work in the Latino community, and how are you transforming some of the stereotypes, at least here in Washington State, on the east side of our state? There are a lot of agricultural workers who would be included in that group of excluded that Heather talks about with respect to social security. So just curious, how is your work addressing some of these issues in specific communities?
Wonderful, thank you, really appreciate that. Great knowledge, great words have been shared already. And Heather speaks a lot about a lot of things that resonates with me, some of the work that I'm focused on. And, as a creator, I'm also a creator as well, right? Through storytelling and then also providing opportunities, right? Some of the ways that I'm able to make a difference, right, is really focusing on myself, right? Because you have to be the change that you want to see. Right. And for me, it all boiled down to education. Right. I was born in the ghetto, came from poverty, extreme poverty. Right. And what really helped me get out of that was my mindset, my attitude. Right. Some things like the power of positive thinking. Right. Positive affirmations, the law of abundance, the law of attraction. Right. And really what I fed my mind. Right. So a long time ago, I realized, how media was programming me. Right. And even society and family and things like that, feeding me negativity, fear and doubt. Right. So I decided to cut that off. Right. So you have to be very careful what you feed yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul. Right. Those are some of the things that you really have to be careful about. And then also who you surround yourself with. That's extremely important. So I always surround myself with positive, inspirational, and motivating people. Right. And then also the people that I work with, right. The collaborators, the partners, the artists that I work with through the work that I do, right. Specifically film work, right. And then film, television, documentaries, right. Creating all these different stories. So it starts with me, right. Who am I, right? Who would I want to be? And then who I want to represent, right? So always representing myself and, my community and my people and my neighborhood and everything else in a positive way, right? So I'm very, like I said, introspective, right? I evaluate myself and say, hey, what roles do I want to create? What films and stories do I want to tell, right? Because we're not all, gang members and drug lords and, these negative stereotypes that have been fed to us over the years, right? And then just like Heather says, these lies that have, been given to us, and it's not true, right? Scarcity is not true. So it really took me to educate myself, right? Reading, these different books that really showed me, the power that we possess, right? And that we usually give away, right? So for a long time, my mind was caged, right? It was, shackled, right, to these negative beliefs, these negative thoughts, right? And then it wasn't until, I started doing, research and figuring out, hey, you know what? My family, which the name Maya comes from, right, is, a long line of artists and musicians and philosophers and mathematicians, right? The Maya people, right? So I started really diving deep into that. And then these are stories that I want to bring to the world, right? And then, just transform these negative stereotypes, right? Our women, aren't mistresses and maids, right? They're doctors, they're engineers, that put satellites out into the universe, right? So these are the people's stories that I want to tell, right? These are the things that I want to share with my community and the world, right? So, I'm making a film that really helps transform these negative stereotypes. And then I made a conscious decision not to show my people as villains, right? So those are some of the things that I've done, right, through the work. And then also just, educating myself, right? Learning about other cultures, other peoples, and, showing my support, right? We're creating or making a film, or actually a video called Black Legacy, where we showcase and highlight various Black African-American owned businesses, right? And show how they're creating a difference or making a difference in their communities and leaving these lasting legacy for our youth and other people that want to follow those steps, right? So as a filmmaker, community leader, and then also a social entrepreneur, for me, it's always been, if you don't have a seat at the table, then build your own table, right? If you don't see opportunities, then create those opportunities, right? The cavalry is not coming, right? The savior is yourself. You are the one that possesses this power. Don't give up that power to anybody, right? And so those are some of the things that, I kind of thumbed through Heather's book, and I definitely, like I said, resonate with a lot of things she says and some of the things that she mentions, right? So these are the powerful messages that I have, for everybody that's listening. Don't believe anybody, right? Tell yourself who you are, through positive affirmations, right? See yourself as the best version of yourself and then create that person, right? So, goals or dreams that are written down, right? And hopefully they're SMART goals, right? And then creating a plan, right? And executing that plan makes those goals a reality, right? Don't ever let anybody tell you cannot achieve anything, right? Believe in yourself, believe in your community, believe in your people, believe in the things that, make a difference, right? So those are some of the things that I want to share, with the people here today, because those are the things that have really helped me break through, right? And create my own reality, create my own world, right? And I only allow, beautiful things into this world that I have created for myself and surround myself with beautiful people, like many of the people that are here today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you feel like connecting, make sure that, go to my website, zetamaya.com, ZETAMAYA.com, and let's connect, let's create some beautiful stories together. Let's tell the stories that are going to really transform our society, our communities, and our people. So thank you so much, Carlos with Zetamaya Entertainment. I look forward to connecting with you.
Hey, that was a beautiful commercial. I'm telling you, so powerful, so inspirational. Thank you, Carlos. Really was. The cavalry is not coming, people. You are the cavalry. You are the source of the solutions. Show the money, do the work internally, like the chamber did. Arm yourself with research, information, and data, and get at it, because the cavalry is not coming. I think we have time. With Dr. J's permission, I have a final question for her as a way to close our dialogue today. But I think we have time for each of our panel members to just give us a 1-minute final, comment, thought that you want to leave with this audience of nearly 300 people today? So if there was one point that you want to make sure 300 people who are with us today leave here with, what is that one point? I'm going to start with Dr. Medeiros because I know he has to go, but I want each of our panel members to take just 1 minute. Dr. J, I want you to wrap it up with your 1 minute and also with the question I'm going to ask you at the end. So you'll be the last to speak in just a few moments here. So Dr. Medeiros, what's the one thing that you want this group of almost 300 to leave here understanding and knowing today?
Well, build the world you want, and I will remind you that data is not innocent. And therefore, every time you look at data, question it.
Thank you. Data sometimes is guilty. Thank you very much. All right. AJ, you want to go next, please?
Sure. I would say be comfortable being uncomfortable. This work is so important that we can't avoid the tough conversations or the challenging environments. And so finding a way to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Thank you very much, AJ. I know you all have had some uncomfortable moments, but it's transformational work from the inside out. So thank you for that. Senator Nobles, President, CEO of the Urban League. And let's not forget the Black Future Co-op Fund, which is profoundly, amazingly successful. What do you want to leave with the group of 300 today?
Thank you. I've been focused on this essay by Lindsay, who is the founder of Crown Magazine. So she is a Black-owned business owner. And in her essay, she says, we can wait all day for a charismatic leader to come and save us, but the only way that we are going to change our circumstances is if we lead ourselves. So Pierce County, I encourage you to lead.
That sounds a lot like what Carlos was just saying. Carlos, you got like 30 more seconds of commercial you want to leave with us today?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Lead by example, right? Take the charge, right? Be in the forefronts, right? Focus on the things that are going to make a difference, right? Every single day that you get up in the morning, it's an opportunity to learn something, right? Make a difference and get closer to your goals, right? So lead by example, lead the charge, lead the way.
Thank you, Carlos. And Dr. J, we're going to end where we began with you. The sum of us is really a call to action. And so tell us, what do you see as our call to action here locally in the state?
I am absolutely full with all of this brilliance that I am sitting and listening to today. And on the horizon for the state, the governor talks about a new normal, everybody having a fair shot to a great life for themselves, their family, and generations to come. And so what's on the horizon from your Office of Equity is we plan to launch the state's first 5-year equity strategic plan early in 2022. And this plan is co-created using the collective wisdom, voices, brilliance of thousands of employees and people across the state to contain those actions to start bridging opportunity gaps that Heather talked about and reducing disparities so everyone in the state flourishes and achieves their full potential. And there really is equity and justice for all for the next 7 generations and beyond. And when I think about that achieving equity and justice for all is all of our work, that would be the SUM, some of us, not just SOME, some of us. And I do believe in my whole heart that we in this state can experience that new birth of freedom that she describes in her chapter on Solidarity Dividend. I believe our call to action is this, and this is only if you believe also that right now health, wealth, and well-being is everyone's portion and that we can experience it in our lifetime, then our call to action is this, Carol. 1, we're going to have this reality. We're going to be able to take care of ourselves, our children, our children's children, when we together in solidarity replace the lies of colonial plantation elite that seduce poor white people to defend a social hierarchy that advantages the elite, working against their own self-interest. Replace those lies with the truth. We all have a right to nice things. We'll experience this when we together in solidarity dismantle racism once and for all and transform state government and society to work for everyone. Let's refill the pool of public goods. And finally, let us together be the solidarity dividend that uproots poverty, lives united in our humanity, Ubuntu, and unapologetically builds and sustains a Washington where each and every person flourishes and achieves their full potential for the next 7 generations and beyond. That's the call of action that I heard Heather McGhee give us. So let's get to it. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Let's get to it. Thank you. Thank you. Round of applause for our panel this morning. Heather McGhee, on top of all, or it wrapped into all of you and your wisdom, that is a full cup. All we need to do is drink. Thank you very much, panelists. Yes, well, I just want to take a moment. I think Donna's going to close us out today. I just want to take a moment and thank everyone for participating and being part of this provocative, inspirational call to action that's happened through the keynotes from Heather McGhee, as well as the videos and the interviews, the panel discussions, the breakout discussions. Hopefully you feel inspired enough. You found some nugget of wisdom that you can integrate into the way that you go about the world so that all of us can be part of the Solidarity Dividend. Thank you, Donna, for letting me moderate the panel and be part of your day. I enjoy it every single year, being a voice and being part of this great event. So thank you very much and congratulations on it.
Well, thank you, Carol, and thank you. What a morning. What an absolutely wonderful and just inspiring, insightful morning. Just thanks to all of you for being here with us and having the discussion. So many things running through my mind right now, as takeaways. But when we plan these events, it's really an opportunity for us to come together as a community. And today was about looking at issues of racial equity and how we can prosper together. And one of the things that Heather said at the very beginning was this idea that led her to the book, The Sum of Us, was about radical empathy and having this curiosity. And I would say to all of us that we should continue to have that curiosity, but also take it to action. What can we do so that we no longer have this notion of a zero-sum game? It's not serving us well. It's not serving us well as a society. But I think underlying all of this is a sense of hope that we are all in this together. And we can do it, Pierce County. I mean, we have shown just in the breakout sessions in our session, talking about some of the strategies and to really not just talk about it, but to actually do something about moving away from a zero-sum game and really being part of this solidarity dividend. So again, thank you. I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank our panelists, the team at United Way. And I also want to thank Chris Surface, who has managed all of our technology today, which is just fantastic because we were hearing earlier this morning that people had power outages. And I'm thinking, all right, how are we going to do this? if people can't get on. So just thank you once again. We do have a final raffle. I know that there's a bunch of folks that have left, but let's see who is still here let's see, the next person up for the insulated bag is Lisa Duke. I don't know if Lisa is here. I know Heidi, someone on my team, is keeping track. The next is the t-shirt and the backpack, Mark Merrill. And the book, The Sum of Us, if Cheryl Pickering is still on. Cheryl, you have the book, The Sum of Us. And then the Visa gift card is Megan Selvage. And again, I don't know if any of these folks are on, but we do have, what we will do afterwards is we do have a listing of who is with us, and we'll just go through. And so you may be very surprised that you are going to get a prize. So we'll make sure that we give away all of these prizes. So again, thank you so much for being here. We'll be sending out probably within a day a survey, but you'll also have access to Heather's videos, but you will only